Jason from IMG Filmworks. Welcome back to my garage and the next installment of Building a Budget Beast, the vlog series where I walk you through everything I did turbocharging my Honda Accord. Now, for some of you fans that have been contacting me a lot in the comments, you've noticed that we've been on hiatus for the last few months. And first of all, I want to apologize about that. The biggest question I get is what's been going on with the series. And this episode today, episode 3, is now going to become question and answers. This is an update on what's been happening and questions and answers from you all, the viewers, that have been sending me a lot of questions. And I've kept all these questions, so not to worry, please keep sending them. But in the few months that we've been off, I have kind of stacked those questions up, and I plan on getting to all of them. So we'll make this a regular part of this series. So the biggest question I get is, when is the next episode coming out? What's going on with the turbo build, everything else? So to update you on that, I have moved across the country 1,000 miles, and that's what's been going on. If any of you all have ever moved, you know how difficult it actually is. So I've had my cars in 3 different places, and finally have got moved in and am back in production on this series, and I'm very excited about it. And again, thank you to all of you all that have been sending me nice emails and things like that, saying you really are excited about the series. It really does motivate me. The Honda you can see behind me just made its trip back again. The good news about this hiatus is I got to put about 4,000 miles on the turbo build, again pushing us over the 20,000 mile mark on this build. So the reliability is definitely there, and that's good news for all you all that are following the series for the reliability aspect of how long will it last. So the Honda is doing great. So with that, let's get right into the questions. The first question comes from Wow Splat, and they ask, will this work for an automatic transmission? And very simply, the answer is absolutely it will. With an automatic transmission, there's going to be, an automatic generally isn't as fast, so that's one thing. But if you're not looking, to set quarter-mile times at the drag strip, you should be fine. The other thing is an automatic transmission is a little weaker than a manual transmission. It's got a lot more moving parts, so it's a little more delicate. So, if you're banging on it with a boosted car and it's weak, you could potentially have an issue there. So I would say be gentle on it. Try not to really, ram the, all the gears together as hard as you can, and you should be okay. I supercharged an automatic Mustang and had it supercharged for a year or so before I sold it, and it did great. It just, with a manual, it's a little bit more fun because you can kind of control when the boost comes on a little bit easier, and it's a little more robust transmission as far as maintenance goes. But I hope that answers your question. The second question is from Mark Knowles. Mark Knowles asked, what type of FMU did you use, 12-to-1 or the 10-to-1? Mark, I used a 12-to-1, and the reason you want to use a 12-to-1 is because your base fuel pressure in this car, let's call it 40. It's probably in the mid to upper 30s. I think I have mine set about 38, but let's use 40. A 10-to-1 FMU is going to boost your fuel pressure 10 psi for every 1 pound of positive boost pressure. So that'll be 50. At 5 psi of boost pressure, you're going to be seeing a 50 psi increase in your fuel pressure. That'll put you somewhere around 88 to 90 psi on the total system. What I found is that 90 psi mark, at least on this build, on this F23A motor, is right about on the line of where you might go lean. So I would definitely go with the 12-to-1 with the stock injectors. So I hope that answers your question. The next question, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment. This guy is XX Rage Quit XX. He says, I ran my 255 liter per hour on my D16Y8 stock. I had it laying around for a spare and didn't notice any miles per gallon difference. There is a return line for unspent fuel. What he's referring to was him and I had talked back and forth. I had mentioned in one of the episodes that the reason I chose a 190 liter per hour fuel pump was because I had heard that with the 255s you can drop your gas mileage because it's backflowing too much. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So it's good to know that there are people out there that it's not backflowing and screwing up their gas mileage, like Rage Quit here. But I also did it for the noise. 255 liter per hour high pressure pump is going to be a little louder than a 190, and I was going for a stock feel. So anyway, that's thanks for the comment there, Rage Quit. Next question is Vittorio. He says, hi, I want to use a compressor, an Eaton M62 blower at 5 PSI. I know I don't need exhaust manifolds and a downpipe, but would I need a blow-off valve and a wastegate valve? Thank you and so much for the videos. Well, Victorio, the simple answer is no, you don't need either. On a blower, the PSI is set by a pulley. So a pulley running off of one of the pulleys on your motor, you know, whether it's a crankcase or an accessory pulley, it's a certain size and it's set by the manufacturer to blow at a certain PSI. So you got a 5 PSI pulley or a 6 or a 7 or whatever. But generally it's set like that. A wastegate is used on a turbocharger because if there wasn't a wastegate there, you could over rev and over boost the motor. So a wastegate lets out the extra gas that's spinning the turbine and will slow down the turbocharger. So you don't need one for a blower. They're set by the pulley. Next question, Jack Binchase. Great video. I love the custom dash pod you have. Where did you source that? I sourced it from Glow Shift Industries. They are on eBay as well. So if you like it, check them out. Josh Joseph. I'm interested in using your setup for my 98 Accord, but I'm looking to aim a little higher than 5 PSI, more like 8 to 10 PSI. What do you recommend I get to achieve that goal? Josh, if you're on the low end of that, say 8 PSI, I think you could probably, you'd probably be okay with an FMU on your stock setup like I am. If you're starting to approach 10, I think you're probably definitely going to need to go engine management. This is a guess because I haven't done it yet, but generally about 7 to 8 PSI is the limit of an FMU if you want to be safe. If you don't want to be safe, go for it and let me know how it turns out. Hell, I may do it, on this build. But I'd say if you're going to stay on the low end of that, you could probably get away with it. You just have to make sure you get a good air-fuel ratio gauge and make sure you're not going lean. If you're going to go 10 PSI or above, definitely probably go engine management and full tune, and maybe even think about upgrading the internals of the motor, like to forged rods and pistons and that kind of thing. Zoratech asks, on one of your videos, can you provide links to all the parts you bought? You have the exact same car, and I would love to save time and find exactly what you bought. Unfortunately, a lot of the links to the things I bought aren't there anymore. I bought a lot of them on eBay and through different companies, but what I will tell you is if you find a good company that you like, I think I bought a lot of parts through GoDaddy out in California. Just give them a call and explain what you need, look at episode 2, the parts list, and they can talk you through and get you a whole kit together so you're not piecing it together and you get it all at one time. I did that with about 80 or 90% of the parts I bought from one company in one big order. So I hope that helps and will save you some time. Casey Canuck says, I've always been told to run 450 DSM blue top injectors. I'm not sure who told you that. The person that told you that probably thought you were going to go engine management in a tune. In that case, that would be right. But if you're going to do it the way I'm doing it, which is an FMU to backflow your stock injectors, you would never want to put a bigger injector on because your car would run so rich that it'd probably give you all kinds of misfires and rich engine codes if you could even get it to run at all. So for this kind of setup with an FMU, it's best to stay with your stock injectors. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see. Jacob Long says, when is the rest of these videos coming out? Because I'm going to be doing the same thing in a few weeks and need to know some of the info as far as hooking up the oil lines and the missing link. Oil lines and missing link are no big deal. That's going to be hopefully in the next episode that I'm currently working on right now, which is the installation considerations. So I was hoping to have that by episode 3, but I'm still in the middle of it, and it's a lot of information to talk through as far as the deconstruction, the pre-construction things that you need to do, and then how you go about actually installing the turbo and the steps and the pitfalls. So stay tuned for that. It's not a big deal, and I'll explain all that in the next episode. And DC2 says, did you actually buy all the parts that were in the pictures, or were they just for reference? No, I purchased all those parts that I showed you. I tried to use the pictures of exactly what I bought. 98 Snake Horse, where are you finding a decent AF air fuel ratio gauge for under $100? Well, I have a narrow band gauge, so most of them are under $100. Decent, the word decent in your question is probably the word that you got to focus on there. I'm not sure how decent any of them are. I use them as an idiot light. So I either I only look to make sure that it's in the rich, or if it's lean, I get out of it. And it works very well for that. A narrow band works very well for that. If you really, really want to tune your car and you're working engine management, you'd want to go with a wide band, which is much more expensive than $100. But you can get a lot of decent gauges under 100 as long as they work. They're just reading 0.1 volt off of your ECU is all they're doing, and they're displaying it in a colored light. So there's really not a lot to go wrong. It either works or it doesn't, kinda. So just pick one you like and go with it. Okay, Isaiah Bell asks, do you use any check valves or missing links? Yes, Isaiah, I use the missing link. The missing link is nothing more than a fancy billet check valve. It's made by Synapse Engineering. It's about $50, and I've had really good luck with it, so that's what I recommend. Some people do just buy cheap pet store check valves. I don't like those. They're prone to failure. I've used them in other applications, so I would spend the money. It's only $50, and it's a really nice piece. You basically, the reason you have to use it is your MAP sensor, or your manifold absolute pressure sensor. It cannot sense any positive boost. If it does, your car is going to turn on the check engine light, and it's going to buck around and not run correctly. So what the missing link does, or a check valve, will trick the computer by bleeding off that positive pressure out under the hood, and thereby keeping the ECU happy, knowing that it's within its parameters. So you definitely need one, and yes, I do, and I recommend the missing link. And the last question for this episode is coming to us from Racing for Micro, and he asked, do you have any problems with the FMU leaking? If so, how did you fix it? No, I have not had any problems with the FMU leaking fuel, thank goodness. What I do when I get an FMU is I disassemble it, make sure it's clean, and I put it back together so there's no debris, casting overrun, anything like that that could possibly cause that. Interesting though, and ironic that you asked this question, I did just have an issue about 4 days ago with the FMU, but it's not what you think. It actually went the other way. Something broke in it, and it caused a super rich condition that turned on a check engine light. So I've got it cut out of the car. I've got it on the bench, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to go through how to break down what happened and how to put it back together. So you all want to stay tuned for that, for people that want an in-depth look at the fuel management units. But no, haven't had any problem with leaks. But again, what I recommend is tear it down, inspect it, put it back together, and make sure it's really tight. The other tip that you want to do is, especially when your build is new and you don't have the kind of mileage I have on it, so you haven't had the ability to trust that everything's going to be okay, is you want to make sure that you're checking on a regular basis. I would say at least once a week. Get out and take a look at the FMU, the turbo, the downpipe, all the things that you've installed, and make sure all the bolts and screws and everything are tight. In the beginning, I did have some come off. I even lost a bolt on the downpipe because it vibrated loose and came off. So make sure you check those and you keep making sure they're tight. And then once the system breaks in, it should be okay. So, but that's what you do. Okay, guys, that's it for this episode on the question and answers. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'm trying to finish the installation considerations, where I kind of just walk you through, a guide of how I installed it. If you're a new subscriber, I'm happy that you found my channel. Please click the link above and become a subscriber. And to all my subscribers and fans of the series that have sent in questions and comments and liked the videos, I want to say thank you, really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. It really keeps me motivated, and I'm glad so many people are wanting to see this series keep going. So until next time, I'll see you guys right back here inside my garage.